Have you ever heard, "You're a visual learner, so you need to be seeing things to learn best"? Or maybe, "You're a kinesthetic learner, you need to be hands on"? Chances are you have classified a student or even been classified yourself as one type of learner or another, and used this idea to improve teaching or learning. And you're not alone. This idea has been prevalent for a long time in education and has had powerful influence over teacher time and effort towards their students. It has created a thriving commercial market amongst researchers, educators, and the general public. There are no less than 71 different models of learning styles that have been proposed over the years. Most have no doubt been created with students' best interests in mind and to create more suitable environments for learning. The wide appeal of the idea that some students will learn better when material is presented visually, and others will learn better when material is presented verbally, or in some other unique individual way, is evident in the vast number of learning style tests and teacher guides available for purchase and used in schools. But the scientific research doesn't support the existence of different learning styles, or the hypothesis that people learn better when they are taught in a way that matches their own unique style. So, how come learning style theories are so popular in today's teaching? One reason is because they have been around for a long time. It seems we can trace the idea of individual learning styles all the way back to Aristotle and his teachings. But we don't need to do that. For our purposes, a good place to start might be the turn of the 20th century. In the early 1900s, Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung speculated that people experience the world using four principal psychological functions: sensation, feeling, intuition, and thinking, and that one of these four functions is dominant for a person most of the time. In 1907, Dr. Maria Montessori, who invented the Montessori method of education, believes that students demonstrate mastery of learning through their actions. In 1976, Kenneth and Rita Dunn created a learning style model that emphasizes the need to match an individual's learning style with the same instructional methodology for teaching. They thought that matching these two spectrums would lead to higher motivation and greater intake of knowledge for the student. Rita Dunn famously said, "If the child is not learning the way you are teaching, then you must teach the way the child learns." All teachers can relate with the idea that we need to try to meet children's needs the best we can. In 1984, David Kolb published his learning style model. This model highlights four distinct learning styles: concrete experience, reflective observation, active experimentation, and abstract conceptualization. Kolb explains that different people naturally prefer a single kind of learning style. Probably the most common and well known today is the VAC or VARC: visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. This model, created in 1987 by Neil Fleming, suggests four modalities that seem to reflect the experience of students and teachers. We have been hearing about learning styles for a long time, and in many cases this information has been coming from, at the time, trusted sources. But in the last few decades, advances in technology in areas like psychology, cognitive science, and neuroscience has helped us look closely at what is happening when we learn. We are able to rigorously test these learning theories and see, do they work or not? So, what have we learned? According to Daniel T. Willingham, a psychologist at the University of Virginia, learning styles are easy to test, and we have. If learning style theory were true, this should really be easy to find in a laboratory, and we just don't see it. In one review of the evidence on learning styles, the authors Harold Pashler, Mark McDaniel, Doug Rohrer, and Robert Bjork were charged with determining whether learning styles are supported by scientific evidence. They said, "We conclude, therefore, that at present there is no adequate evidence base to justify incorporating learning styles assessment into general education practice. Thus, limited education resources would be better devoted to adopting other educational practices that have a strong evidence base, of which there are an increasing number. Basically, they are saying for teachers, there are more helpful ideas out there to focus on than learning styles. Other researchers from Indiana University School of Medicine had hundreds of graduate students take the VARC. The VARC is the test that is supposed to determine someone's learning style out of four options: visual, auditory, reading, writing, or kinesthetic. Students then studied the way that was consistent with their learning style. After the researchers tested them in various control groups, they found that results showed no real correlation when they studied with their learning style. Why is this a problem? At this point, we have to make sure the message is clear. Good teachers are already thinking that something is strange about this message. Daniel Willingham explains it well when he said, "It's important to be clear that learning styles is not a theory of how the mind works, but it can be a theory of how to teach." So when we say there's no evidence for learning styles, we are making a claim about the mind, not about instruction. This means finding and using different methods to teach concepts like having kids sing a song, look at a map, act out their understanding, etc., is just good teaching. What the research tells us to avoid is thinking about it as this child should only learn by listening because that is their preferred method. Or to think, for example, that reading or writing, etc., is always the best method for this child because it matches their unique learning style. Another reason the pervasiveness of this myth is a problem is that the basic research we have done in the last 20 years in metacognition and memory has demonstrated that much of our intuitions and beliefs about how we learn are often wrong. This causes students and teachers to make bad decisions about how best to optimize learning. For example, students commonly overestimate their understanding of topics and the effectiveness of the methods they use to study. This is especially relevant because learning styles can feel right. So it will be easy for students to spend their time and effort trying to frame their learning to fit their style. But this will inadvertently take their attention away from methods that can truly help them learn. Learning styles can also lead to thinking that is too simplistic and can turn into, "I can't learn X because I'm a visual learner," or "I can't learn this because it's not presented in my style." It is so pervasive that in one survey, 96% of teachers were found to believe in learning styles. In another survey, it found that 93% of the public, 76% of educators, and 78% of people who had taken neuroscience courses believe in learning styles. When you put together that humans are poor at knowing intuitively what the best strategies are for learning and the fact that belief in learning styles are so ubiquitous, you come to the problem that McDonald et al. Found in their research in 2017. In dispelling the myth, training in education or neuroscience decreases but does not eliminate beliefs in neuromyths. They found that because learning styles can seem so intuitive, even people trained in education and neuroscience can easily fall for this unless they have been specifically shown the evidence and reasoning. So, what needs to be done? The great thing is that this doesn't require a huge systematic shift. The reality is, teachers are already doing what needs to be done. Science and technology have given us the ability to look into the brain and see what happens when we learn. We are understanding more and more how the brain works. Teachers just need to make a subtle shift to move away from thinking individual students have unique learning styles while still creating diverse learning experiences. It is also important to identify and focus on strategies and research that has been shown to enhance everybody's learning.